Hi, my name is Joelle, and welcome to my presentation for my PYPx. A fun fact about me is that I like to draw characters. Did you know that corruption is common in Indonesia? From the bottom to the top chain in governments, there are always cases of corruption in Indonesia. Frauds are quite common too in Indonesia, but Indonesia is still the 100th most corrupt country, meaning that there are even more corrupt countries in the world. I chose political justice and corruption to be my SEG because corruption is a big problem in countries, and in my opinion, political justice helps prevent it. I focus on SEG number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. In this presentation, I will talk about my research, action, and reflection on a global issue important to me. My central idea is that justice prevents corruption. In this research project, I explored three lines of inquiry. Let's start. This is what I learned. My first line of inquiry is, how does the system of corruption work in a democracy? The key concept I focused on for this was function. How does it work? The questions I had was, what is corruption? What is a democracy? How does corruption affect the country? Did you know that a democratic country is vulnerable to corruption if they do not have a strong system of law and regulation? It could be more corrupt than any other system of government. A bad system of democracy can create bad cronyism, nepotism, extortion, and most of all, bribery to earn more power. Therefore, building a strong political justice is needed in a democratic country. First, we have to define corruption and democracy. Number one, corruption. Corruption is an abuse of power and money. For example, the previous Indonesian President Suharto abused his power and money by stealing money from charities and taxes until Indonesia was almost bankrupt. He transformed a democracy into a dictatorship by leading his country under his rules for 32 years. Number two, democracy. A democracy is a system of government in which laws and decisions are made by people. When there are too many parties involved in the government, the parties are controlled to do bribery by the elites for their personal benefits. They cause imbalance in the economy, inequality, failure in infrastructure, and higher crime rates. The people have low trust in the government because the money is not shared fairly to the citizens or used for the good. Cities, towns, and villages are slow to build, so production and low human development is slow. My second line of inquiry is the effect of corruption by the elite on poor populations. My key concept was connection. How is it linked to other things? The questions I had was, how vulnerable is a government to corruption? How does the elite get involved in corruption? And how does the poor become a victim of corruption? Can you imagine living a life in a bad democratic country? You're only able to do something by bribing and nepotism, and elites who have money control the law and regulation, which mostly are illogical and prone to corruption. Bad governments will not prioritize people and will only think for themselves. Their powers will be used for personal gain, and they will work together with the elites. The greed of the elites will cause corruption because they will bribe the government with their money and gifts. All those causes and effect will harm the country, especially the poor. As a matter of fact, 71% of the population live in low income or poor. The resources and taxes will not be given equally to the people but only to the rich and corrupt. Again, poverty, loss of trust in the government, human right violations, and armed conflict will appear in the country if those kind of things happen. People will create and rebel um, and people will rebel and create the will of changing the government. My third and final line of inquiry is, how is political justice different from other types of justice, and how does it prevent corruption? This relates to the key concept of function. How does it work? How is political justice different from other types of justice, and how does it prevent corruption? The questions I had was, what is political justice? How can political justice help prevent corruption? We have to be brave and be grateful for our country. Like most of our great philosophers and thinkers, they will always say, people power, the power people. The answer to all above the worries is political justice. Political justice is when you are able to vote freely without being discriminated against because of your race or religion. It provides equal political rights to all without discrimination, such as right to vote, right to contest elections, and right to form political parties. It is different from other types of justice because it controls the judicial process by gaining or eliminating political power or influence. It involves the court of law and the military. Therefore, it controls mostly the law and regulation of the government. Political justice helps prevent corruption by making voting fair for everyone, and it also means that people are watching and observing their own actions and government. Since political justice is about strong enforcement of law and orders, the government will the government, especially the People's Representative Council, have to be assembled and united to create a good, stable government system. Therefore, the people will get justice. My action. My idea was to create a pledge. This is how I planned my idea for taking action. First, the type I did was advocacy. I planned to do a pledge about elections and democracies. I did a pledge because I want to spread awareness about corruption. Second, I promoted my action by creating a poster that is creative and persuasive. I hung it up in the lobby near the cafeteria, and I also advertised it to different classes. Then, the hardest part of my action is convincing people to sign my pledge and getting support. In conclusion, I convinced and persuaded a bunch of people, and I appreciate all the support they gave me. This will help spread more awareness about SEG number 16 and corruption, and it will make a difference in the world. For a full list of my research sources, you can see my websites. Finally, thank you for listening. I am happy to take any questions from the audience and I will do my best to answer. Who would like to go first? Thank you.